Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at how technology can really transform your architectural practice. We've got a lot of articles and research here, so we're going to pull out all the important stuff.
It's more than just buying the coolest gadgets, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're going to be looking at strategies and must-haves versus nice-to-haves. We'll even talk about how to avoid some common pitfalls.
That's interesting because I feel like we're at a point where technology is not just an extra thing for architects. It's like completely changing how we design and build.
Okay, so let's talk about this whole digital-first mindset.
Yeah.
Like if you could start from scratch and build your workflow now, how would tech play a role in that?
Well, I think you have to realize that these digital tools aren't just replacing the old ways of doing things. They're making completely new things possible.
Okay.
Like, think about BIM. It's totally changed how we can visualize and analyze our designs and even how we work together. Now you can build a virtual building with all this extra information built in. You can play around with different designs. You can even simulate how a building will perform before you even start building it.
So we've basically gone from hand-drawn blueprints to a world where you can walk through a building that doesn't even exist yet.
Exactly. And even in areas like accounting, which are still pretty traditional, tech can make things so much more efficient.
Now let's talk about a framework for making smart decisions about tech. Have you ever heard of the software development lifecycle?
Oh, yeah, the SDLC.
It might sound like something just for software people, but architects can use it too. It's like a roadmap for building A&Y technology system, whether it's a new software or revamping your network.
You're right, a lot of people don't think of it that way. But the SDLC makes you really think things through. Instead of just going after the latest trendy thing, you start by asking, what are we even trying to fix here?
So the first step is plan, right? You figure out what needs to change. Maybe that old spreadsheet for your budget isn't working anymore, or your team can't seem to communicate properly.
Right. Then it's information gathering. You don't just go shopping for software, you really dig into what your firm needs. Like, what are the problems? What are you hoping to achieve? You figure out the why before you jump into the what.
Makes sense, understanding the need before going after the shiny new object. Okay, so what about the analysis phase?
This is where you break down those problems. Like, why is that spreadsheet giving you a headache? Is it missing features? Is it hard to use? Is it difficult to share with others? By figuring out the root cause, you can turn that into a list of things your tech solution needs to do.
So it's like a detective investigation for your tech.
Yeah, something like that. Then you have design. This is where you look at all the different products and services and see which ones actually meet your needs. You'll be comparing different software companies, looking at their features, and thinking about how they fit into your current systems.
And once you've found the right fit, you move on to build deploy. This sounds more like the hands-on part.
It is. This is getting everything set up and running properly for your whole firm. That could be anything from installing software and configuring networks to moving data and training your team. The goal is for everyone to feel comfortable and confident using the new system.
Okay, so this is like the grand opening of your new tech system.
It is. But the work's not over yet, is it?
Right, of course not.
There's also the maintain phase. This is all about taking care of your tech systems over time. You'll need to do backups, security updates, troubleshooting, all that stuff to make sure everything keeps running smoothly so you can focus on what's important, designing buildings.
So how do you figure out which tech investments are absolutely necessary and which ones are just kind of nice to have?
Well, that's where you need to figure out what's a must-have and what's just a nice-to-have.
You give me an example.
Yeah, so a centralized backup system, that's a must-have. It protects all your data just in case your hardware fails or there's some kind of accident or even a cyber attack. It's basically like insurance for your digital stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
But something like a feature that automatically sends data from your project management software to your accounting software, that might be a nice-to-have, but not a deal breaker. Sure, it makes things easier, but your business won't fall apart without it.
So you're talking about how the software actually works, but then you have the technical side of things too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to be clear on the difference between what we call functional requirements, what the software does, and technical requirements, the hardware and system specs you need to run that software.
Okay, I think I get that. So give me an example.
Let's stick with BIM software. A functional requirement could be that it needs to be able to handle client deliverables like 3D models and data extraction. But then the specific CPU, RAM, and graphics card that you need to run that software smoothly, those are technical requirements.
So it's kind of like knowing you need a vehicle, but then you got to figure out if you need a small car, a pickup truck, or a big rig. depending on what you're hauling and where you're going.
Exactly. And speaking of picking the right vehicle, another big decision firms have to make is whether to handle their IT needs themselves or outsource it.
Yeah, hire an IT person or rely on outside services. That's a tough one. So break it down for me. What are the pros and cons?
Okay, so insourcing, you have more control over your systems, you get faster responses when things go wrong, and you can really tailor solutions to your specific needs. But it can be expensive.
Makes sense.
And there's a risk that your IT people will spend all their time just putting out fires instead of working on bigger projects. Plus, finding and keeping good IT people is tough.
So it's kind of like having your own in-house mechanic. Great when everything's running well, but potentially a big expense if something major breaks. All right, what about outsourcing?
Outsourcing, which often comes in the form of software as a service, lets you focus on your core business, designing buildings, and not get bogged down managing complicated IT systems.
It's like having a roadside assistance service instead of your own mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. So SaaS solutions are often cheaper, especially for smaller firms, and they usually include automatic updates and backups. You're always getting the newest version of the software with the latest security features without having to do it all yourself.
I can see why that's appealing, but what are the drawbacks?
Well, there can be issues with data security. You're relying on outside help, and you might get locked into a specific vendor, which makes switching later on hard and expensive. You're basically trusting another company with your data and systems, so you got to choose carefully.
It sounds like the total cost of ownership is a big factor here.
Absolutely. TCO means looking beyond just the initial price and considering all the costs associated with a technology system over its lifespan that includes things like maintenance, training, support, potential upgrades, and even the cost of your staff's time learning and using the system.
So it's not just about the sticker price, it's about the long game.
Right. Looking at the TCO can help you make better decisions about whether to hire someone in-house, go with an outside service, or even do a mix of both. Now that we've talked about the strategy stuff, let's get into the nuts and bolts, the hardware and software that make a modern architectural practice tick.
Let's start with hardware. What are the essentials?
All right, you're going to need powerful workstations for your designer so they can handle all the demanding stuff like BIM and rendering. Then there's portable laptops for site visits, client meetings, and working remotely.
Makes sense.
And mobile devices like tablets and smartphones are becoming super important for field work and getting information on the go. Plus, you can't forget those large format plotters to print your designs.
Okay, so what about the network, all the behind-the-scenes stuff?
You're going to need a strong network with servers to store all your data, manage user access, and support collaboration. A reliable internet connection and enough bandwidth is super important, especially if you're working with huge files and collaborating with people in different locations.
Almost like the nervous system of your firm.
Exactly. Now, on the software side, you've got project management tools for tracking deadlines, budgets, and resources. And of course, CAD and BIM applications are at the core of your design process. And don't forget about construction contract administration software for stuff like managing change orders and submittals during the building phase.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much software out there.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot to explore. And I want to emphasize something that often gets overlooked, the business operations side of things. Tech can make a huge difference in things like accounting, finance, HR, and even your client relationship management.
So it's not just about designing cool buildings. It's about running the whole business of architecture smoothly. Now, what about protecting all this valuable data and making sure your business can keep running no matter what?
Ah, that's where data backup and restoration come in. Imagine a fire, a flood, or even just a hard drive crashing. Without backups, you could lose years of work, client info, financial records. It would be a disaster.
Yeah.
A good backup and restoration plan is like your insurance policy against that kind of thing.
It's like an escape route for your data.
Yep.
And how about security and controlling who has access to what?
Security is super important these days. You need to protect your information from unauthorized access, both from outside threats like hackers and inside risks like accidentally deleting something. This means using strong passwords, encryption, access controls, and being aware of things like phishing scams. It's like having a security system for your digital world.
Wow, building a tech-savvy architecture firm is a lot more complex than I thought.
It definitely is. But remember, tech should be a tool that helps you, not a burden. The key is choosing systems that actually fit your needs and goals, and then investing the time and resources to set them up properly.
Great advice. Welcome back to our deep dive. We're continuing our look at how technology is shaking things up in the world of architecture.
Yeah.
Last time we talked about the digital-first approach
Yeah.
and some strategies for integrating technology.
Right.
So now let's see how those ideas are being used in real-world situations.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see how companies are not just using technology to be more efficient, but also to be more creative in their architecture. We're
Right.
seeing design, technology, and data all coming together, and it's opening up a whole world of possibilities.
Let's jump into some specific examples. One area where we're seeing some awesome innovation is in design visualization and analysis, specifically the power of BIM.
Yeah, BIM has completely changed how we visualize and analyze buildings.
Hmm.
It's not just static 2D drawings anymore. It's immersive 3D models. Clients can actually experience a space virtually before it's even built.
It's like stepping into a time machine, right?
Yeah.
You can walk through a building that doesn't even exist yet.
That's a great way to put it. And what's even better is that BIM is not just about making pretty pictures.
Right.
These models have all sorts of data packed into them. You can analyze energy performance, test structural loads, even figure out the best way to use materials. It's leading to buildings that are more sustainable and cost-effective.
So it's not just about how it looks, it's about making the whole design process smarter from the beginning.
Absolutely. And speaking of immersive experiences, we can't forget about VR and AR in architecture. With VR headsets, clients can really feel like they're inside the design. They experience the size, the light, even the acoustics of a space in a way that was never possible before.
So it's like taking those client presentations to a whole new level.
Exactly. And then with AR, you can overlay digital information onto the real world. Like imagine you're on a construction site and you can see the building systems overlaid onto the actual structure.
Wow.
It's super useful for visualization and coordination.
It's like having X-ray vision for buildings.
Huh, yeah. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about those cloud-based collaboration platforms. They're changing how architects, engineers, contractors, and clients all work together.
For sure. They're making it possible to share files seamlessly, communicate in real time, and keep track of the project no matter where you are in the world.
Right.
We're not limited by geography anymore. It's like having a virtual design studio that spans the globe. What are some of the biggest advantages you've seen with these platforms?
Oh, I've seen firms use them to streamline communication, cut down on errors, and speed up project timelines.
Quick.
They can bring together teams from different fields and different locations, and that helps create a much more collaborative and integrated design process.
So it's not just about being convenient, it's about better communication, which ultimately leads to better designs.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of better design, let's not forget about data analysis.
Data analysis. That's not something I usually think about when it comes to architecture. Tell me more.
Well, data is becoming a really valuable tool for architects. Companies are using it to track project costs, streamline workflows, identify trends, and make more informed design decisions. It's about using those insights to drive innovation and get better results.
It's like having a crystal ball to predict the future of your projects.
Well, maybe not a crystal ball, but it's definitely a powerful way to get a better understanding and make decisions based on hard data.
We've talked about some pretty cool technologies that are shaping the future of architecture. But how do those innovations actually benefit firms and their clients?
At the end of the day, these technologies are helping companies achieve some really important goals. They're improving the quality of their designs, they're becoming more efficient, they're cutting costs, and that all leads to better results for their clients.
So give me some specific examples of those benefits in action.
Sure. One firm used BIM to optimize the design of a really complex hospital project, and they ended up cutting construction costs by 15%.
Wow, that's significant.
Another firm used VR to present different design options to a client who couldn't travel to the site.
That's really clever.
And yet another firm started using a cloud-based collaboration platform to streamline their communication and file sharing, which helped them reduce errors and save time.
So these technologies are not just some futuristic concept. They're making a real difference right now.
Absolutely. And the benefits go beyond just individual firms. These technologies are helping to create a built environment that's more sustainable, efficient, and resilient for everyone.
That's amazing. But let's be real, adopting new technologies can be tough.
Yeah, it can be.
What advice do you have for firms that are just starting to explore these possibilities?
Well, the most important thing to remember is that implementing new technology is a journey, not a destination. It takes careful planning, a willingness to try new things, and a commitment to always learning.
It's like setting out on an architectural adventure.
That's a good way to put it. And here are a few key tips for firms just starting out. First, understand your needs and goals.
Okay.
What are the biggest challenges you're facing? What do you hope to achieve? Once you have a clear vision, you can start to explore technologies that can help you get there.
So like creating a technology roadmap for your company.
Exactly. Second, don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
The technology landscape is always changing, so stay curious and try different things. There's no one solution that works for everyone.
So find what works best for you.
Right. Third, invest in training for your team. Make sure they have the skills and knowledge to use these technologies effectively. This might involve workshops, online courses, or even working with the technology vendors to get customized training.
It's like teaching your team to speak the language of technology.
Exactly. And lastly, never forget that technology is just a tool. It doesn't replace human creativity and expertise. Use it to make your design process better, not to dictate it.
So it's all about finding the balance between technology and human ingenuity.
Exactly. Technology can help us do incredible things, but it's up to us to use it in a way that's smart and ethical.
Now let's shift gears and talk about the business side of technology. We touched on this briefly in the first part, but I think it deserves a deeper dive.
Okay.
How can technology help firms improve their operations, boost their financial performance, and just overall become more successful?
That's a great question, and it's something that a lot of firms are thinking about these days.
Yeah.
The good news is that technology can make a huge difference in every part of an architectural practice, from design and production to marketing, sales, and client management.
It's like having a whole toolbox of technology for every stage of the business.
Exactly. And just like we've seen in the design world, technology is not just about automating tasks in the business world. It's changing how we approach business challenges.
So give me some concrete examples of how technology is impacting the business of architecture.
Well, one big area is project management. Traditionally, it was a very manual process, but now there are all these sophisticated software platforms that are streamlining everything.
What kind of things?
Everything from scheduling and budgeting to communication and team collaboration.
So it's like having a virtual project manager right there in your computer.
Exactly. These platforms can help firms keep track of their progress, spot potential problems, manage resources more effectively, and communicate better with their clients and team members.
It's like having a dashboard that shows you everything that's going on with your projects, all in real time.
That's a good way to put it. Another area where technology is really changing things up is financial management. Cloud-based accounting software makes it so much easier for firms to track expenses, manage invoices, create reports, and just really understand their financial situation.
So we're moving away from all those stacks of paper invoices and shoeboxes full of receipts.
Yes, definitely. Those days are over. These platforms automate so many of the boring tasks that used to take up so much time, and that frees up companies to focus on what they do best, designing great buildings.
It's like having a virtual CFO on your team, giving you constant updates on your financial health.
Exactly. Now, how about marketing, sales, and client relationships? How is technology changing those areas?
Right. What about those?
Well, in today's world, it's absolutely essential for firms to have a strong presence online and use digital tools to connect with potential clients, showcase their work, and build relationships.
Okay.
Firms are using social media, email marketing, SEO, and all sorts of other digital marketing tactics to reach a wider audience, generate leads, and ultimately win new projects.
So technology is not just changing how we design buildings, it's changing how we connect with clients and build our businesses.
That's right. And the firms that are embracing these changes are the ones that are really thriving in today's competitive market. Now, let's talk about something that's often overlooked but incredibly important: cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity, something we hear a lot about these days. But what does it really mean for the world of architecture?
Well, cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue. It's something that every company, including architecture firms, has to take seriously. We live in a world where data breaches and cyber attacks are becoming more and more common, and architecture firms are just as vulnerable as any other business.
It's like a digital storm that could really damage your practice.
That's a great way to put it. A data breach could hurt your reputation, cause financial losses, and even put your client relationships at risk. But just like we design buildings to withstand real storms, we can design our technology systems to protect against these digital threats.
So how can firms protect themselves and their clients' information?
First and foremost, you need strong passwords and multi-factor authentication for all your user accounts.
Right.
This makes it a lot harder for hackers to get into your systems.
It's like having a double lock on your front door, but for your computer.
Exactly. Second, keep all your software updated. Software vulnerabilities are one of the main ways hackers get in, so keeping your software up to date is really important.
So it's like having a security guard always patrolling your system looking for weak spots.
That's a good analogy. Third, educate your team about cybersecurity best practices. Phishing scams, malware, and social engineering attacks are getting more and more sophisticated, so everyone needs to be aware of the risks.
So like having a training program for your whole team on how to be safe online.
Exactly. And finally, it's a good idea to have a plan in place for what you'll do if something does happen, like a data breach or another security incident.
So it's like a fire drill, but for your technology. Everyone knows what to do in case of emergency.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is an ongoing process, not a one-time thing. You have to be vigilant, adapt to new threats, and make it a top priority.
Now let's talk about the future of technology and architecture. What are some of the emerging trends and innovations you're excited about?
Oh, that's a great question. Technology moves so fast, it's hard to say for sure what's coming next. But there are a few things I'm really interested in.
I'd love to hear about them. What's caught your eye?
Well, one thing with huge potential is artificial intelligence, or AI. AI tools can automate repetitive tasks, generate design options, optimize building performance, and even help with client communication.
It's like having a virtual design assistant who can help you with everything.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Another exciting area is generative design. It uses algorithms to create thousands of different design options based on certain parameters. It can help architects explore a much wider range of possibilities, optimize their designs, and even come up with completely unique and unexpected forms.
Wow.
It's like having a brainstorming partner who can push the boundaries of what's possible. Okay.
Then there's 3D printing, which is becoming more sophisticated and less expensive all the time. This technology opens up new ways to fabricate buildings, allowing us to create complex components, custom finishes, and even whole structures with amazing precision.
So you're saying it's like having a digital factory right at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You can make your designs come to life in physical form.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the Internet of Things, or IoT. This network of connected devices is turning buildings into smart, responsive environments.
Okay.
IoT sensors can collect data on everything, from energy use and occupancy patterns to air quality and temperature. All that information can be used to make buildings more comfortable, sustainable, and efficient.
It's like giving buildings a nervous system, allowing them to sense and react to their surroundings.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
These are just a few of the many amazing developments happening in architectural technology.
Yeah.
It's an incredible time to be an architect, and I can't wait to see how all these innovations continue to change our profession and the way we build. This has been a really fascinating look at how technology is changing the game for architects.
Yeah, it has.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the strategies for using technology to the real-world benefits and the exciting trends that are shaping the future.
It's been great talking about all this with you. I hope this deep dive has inspired you to think about how technology can help you achieve your goals and make a real difference in the world.
It definitely has. But before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I have one more question.
Okay, shoot.
What advice would you give to aspiring architects who are just starting out in this rapidly evolving digital world?
Well, my advice is simple. Embrace technology. Don't be afraid to experiment, learn new skills, and push the boundaries of what's possible. The future of architecture is in your hands. Use technology wisely, ethically, and creatively to build a better world for all of us.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into how technology is transforming the way architects work.
It is pretty exciting, isn't it?
It is. We talked about all the strategies and the real-world benefits, and even got a glimpse of what the future holds. Now I'm excited to dig into some real-life examples of firms using technology to design some pretty amazing buildings.
Yeah, there's nothing like seeing these concepts and tools actually being put into practice. It's really inspiring to see how architects are using tech to solve problems and push the boundaries of what's possible.
So let's start with a firm that's tackling one of the biggest challenges we face today: building more sustainable and resilient buildings.
Well, one firm that comes to mind is really pushing the limits of sustainable design using BIM. They're using it to analyze the environmental impact of their designs throughout the building's entire lifespan.
Okay.
It's not just about saving energy while the building is being used. They're thinking about the carbon footprint of the materials themselves and even what happens to the building when it's eventually torn down.
Wow. So it's a much bigger picture, more holistic approach to sustainability, all thanks to the information they can get from BIM.
Exactly. And they're even using BIM to simulate how the building would hold up under different climate change scenarios. Things like extreme heat, floods, high winds.
Wow.
So they can design structures that are more resilient and can adapt to whatever the future throws at them.
It's like they're future-proofing our buildings against the unknown.
Yeah.
Now, how about firms that are using tech to improve the actual design process itself? Anything that stands out to you?
Oh, absolutely. There's this one firm that's really embracing generative design algorithms to explore all sorts of design
Oh
possibilities.
yeah, generative design. I've heard about that.
So they plug in their design goals and any constraints, and the algorithm comes up with thousands of potential solutions. Each one is optimized for different things, like structural efficiency, how much natural light it gets, even how it looks aesthetically.
It's like having a team of digital assistants all working on different aspects of the design at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's important to remember that the algorithm isn't replacing the architect.
Yeah.
It's a tool that helps them be more creative. The architect still has to look at all the options, use their expertise, and make the final decisions.
So it's more like a collaboration between human creativity and computer power.
Right, exactly.
What kind of results have they seen using this approach?
Well, they've been able to design buildings with really complex and organic shapes that would have been super difficult to do using traditional methods.
Wow.
Generative design is opening up new possibilities for architectural expression.
That's amazing. Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about the construction process. Are there firms out there using tech to make construction more efficient, more sustainable, or just more innovative?
Definitely. There's one firm that's really leading the way with 3D printing, using it to create complex building components right there on the construction site.
Okay.
This approach cuts down on waste, speeds up construction, and lets them be super flexible with their designs.
It's like having a mini factory right there on the site.
It is. They're printing everything from intricate facades and custom cladding panels to structural elements and even whole modular units.
Wow.
And because they can print things on demand, they can make highly customized components that perfectly match the design without needing expensive molds or spending tons of time on off-site fabrication.
It's like architecture is becoming more like sculpting. The design flows seamlessly into the physical building.
That's a great way to put it. And they're even using 3D printing to make sustainable building materials from recycled plastics and other wastes.
That's fantastic. It's a win-win for efficiency and the environment. Now let's talk about designing buildings that really enhance the human experience, something I'm really passionate about. This is where the Internet of Things comes in, right?
You got it. There's this firm that's really integrating IoT into everything they build. They're putting sensors everywhere to gather data on things like temperature, lighting, how many people are in a space, even air quality.
Okay.
It's like giving the building a way to sense and respond to what's happening inside.
So what do they do with all that data? Seems like it'll be a lot to manage.
They use it to fine-tune the building systems in real time to make the environment more comfortable and efficient for everyone. For example, they can adjust the lighting and temperature based on how many people are in a room.
Oh, wow.
That way you maximize comfort and minimize energy waste. And they can use the data they collect to make better design decisions for future projects so buildings become more responsive to people's needs.
It's like the building is learning from the people inside it and constantly adapting to create a better experience.
Exactly. And they're even using mobile apps to personalize the experience for everyone in the building.
Oh, cool.
People can control their own environment, book meeting rooms, find amenities, and get alerts about building events, all from their phones.
It's like having a personal concierge for the whole building. What a great example of how technology can improve the human experience.
And they're even getting really creative, using the data to create interactive art installations and dynamic light and displays that respond to people's movements.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So we've seen some really amazing ways that firms are using technology to make buildings more sustainable, efficient, and people-centric. It's really inspiring to see what's possible when architects embrace the power of tech.
It really is. These examples show us just how much potential there is for technology to transform the way we design and build. But as we wrap up our deep dive, it's important to remember that technology is just a tool. It's not a replacement for human creativity and expertise.
Right. It's all about finding that sweet spot where technology helps us achieve more without losing sight of the human element in architecture.
Exactly. At the end of the day, architecture is all about creating spaces that inspire us, delight us, and meet our needs as humans. Technology can help us do that in some truly incredible ways, but it's our vision, our ingenuity, and our passion that will always lead the way.
That's a perfect way to sum it up. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of technology and architecture.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you've learned some valuable things and feel inspired to continue exploring how technology can shape your own architectural journey. And with that, we'll say goodbye for now. Keep designing and keep innovating.